topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Tampa. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I'm your host, Steve-O. If you knew what my last name was, you would understand why I go by Steve-O. Hey, we've got a great show for you this morning. Our expert, who I adore, and I don't say that about in fact, I don't think I'd say that about anybody with all the shows we do, but it is so important when you're planning out your future, and I'm talking about estate planning, that you have somebody that you can really trust, that is knowledgeable, that doesn't talk over your head, and actually, like she's done with me, become a friend. Let me welcome our expert this morning, attorney Debbie Baker. Good morning, attorney.
Hey, listen, I just think that you need to tell Sophia that you use that word adore advisedly.
We have a restaurant show, and we talked about you last Monday night because her cat wants to come on the show, who looks exactly like your cat, but then when he hops up on her lap, he gets nervous and runs away.
Oh my God. Well, I don't know where he might be spooked, because I think I told you I'm having windows cleaned this morning. But anyway, we've kind of rattled his cage, so to speak. But anyway, it's good to see you. Good to see you.
It's good seeing you. I love doing your show. I want people to hear about who you are, and we're going to be talking about leaving a legacy today. But first, tell people about yourself and your practice.
Okay. Well, I love doing this. I went to law school later than most people go to law school. In fact, it was very disappointing to learn when I graduated that I hadn't been the oldest person to graduate from law school. Although you have to understand, I was 39 years old when I started, and I was 39 years old when I graduated, and I'm still 39 years old. But in the world of birth certificates, it would have made me laugh to find out I've been the oldest graduate. Anyway, I went as a walk of faith. God told me to go to law school. That's a longer story than we have time for here. And it's really, the more I do it, the more I get that he knew what he was doing. He always knows what he was doing, but like it. So here's the cat, everybody. Pip, say hello. He'd say, okay, hello. Because this practice, and Rebel and I were talking about it a little bit before while we were waiting to get started, is such a place to be of service to people who are in crisis. I've got several situations now where families waited too long, and we're going to wind up in situations that could have been avoided. And I'm available for the compassion and the empathy that's really, really important to have when somebody calls you and one of their loved ones is dying and they waited too long and they're going to wind up in a situation they didn't want. And then for general, I was an executive coach for well over 30 years. And that was all about being of service. It was just all about, if I could make your life easier, your life individual or your life as a group easier, then there was no better reward for it. God gifted me with great intuition. I've been told more than once that I'm physic, or as most people pronounce it, psychic. And I had that happen last week, which always is like, okay. And estate planning, particularly, and wills, trusts, that kind of thing is just more. It's just a way to be. It's just a way to be in the world and bring gifts. And I always do it with laughter, even in the saddest circumstances. We can always find somebody or something to laugh at and about, just to relieve the tension. So that's why I do what I do.
Debbie, I got to tell you, you are such an inspiration. And I'm going to tell you why. My Sophia wanted to be an attorney. And people tell her all the time she should have been an attorney. And she said, no, it was just too late in life to get started. You pulled this off. You did something that a lot of people wish they would have gone back and accomplished what you've accomplished.
Well, thank you.
I got to tell you, it's so inspirational. I think what you did.
Well, I do get a kick out of people, saying to me, I'm too old to do that. And I just look at them and they think, oh, I can't say that to you, can I? I said, no, you don't really want to say that to me. But you talk about being inspirational. I never realized I was being inspirational while I was in school. It never occurred to me that I was an inspiration. And one person finished their bachelor's degree. One person finished their master's degree. One person went to law school because I was the inspiration. And it's so humbling. It's so, thank you. Thank you for that. Tell Sophia to call me. I'll tell her to get over it and go to law school if that's what she wants.
Well, she would kill me if I gave her a job, but no, there's a lot of women out there like Sophia who wished that they would have, even though it was later in life, gone back to whether it's medical school or law school and just didn't act on it. And it's the same because they're so sorry they didn't. But knowing that you did and what you've accomplished, I just think that I love sharing that with our audience because you never know who's out there listening. And
that's right.
I feel I'm a godly person. If we can touch one person each month on this show, I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to talk about legacy. What do you want to talk about, Steve?
Well, first of all, I want to go kind of do a summary about estate planning and why it's so important.
Okay. Well, just like what I said, estate planning is important because you just never know when you're going to need something. And several things one thing has come up several times just in the last couple of weeks is people find themselves ill. Like for you, like you said, Steve, you'd had some knee surgery or something like that. So let's just say you had a complication from that wasn't easily taken care of. You were losing a lot of blood or whatever, and you needed somebody to speak to your doctors for you because you weren't able. Without a healthcare surrogate. Now, if you're married, your spouse can speak to doctors for you. They don't need special permission. But if you're unmarried, whether you've been with somebody for 10 years or 20 years, or you're single, widowed, divorced, whatever, and you don't have that person, if you need somebody to speak to a doctor, the doctor will not speak to that person should not speak to that person without your permission. So powers of attorney for financial matters, healthcare surrogates for health matters, those are really important tools to have. One of the people who called me who's in that sad situation of her husband's probably going to die before they get documents done. They've been married over 30 years. He bought the house before they were married. She's not on the deed, and she's going to wind up in probate because we didn't get to it. Fine. It happens more often than it should because people are unaware. People think, so if you and Sophia bought a home together, it wouldn't be unusual for the two of you to think, or if you bought the home first and then you became a couple and she moved in, and it wouldn't be unusual for you to think, well, she's been with me for 25 years. Of course she owns this home if I die. Well, that's not true. Your family owns the home if you die. Wow. Whoever they are, and you may have disinherited all those siblings, but they own the home. And then it's that kind of thing. Right now, this man is very sick. They'll talk to his wife, who's pretty immobile and unable to get around, but they won't talk to his daughter because he hasn't given them permission to talk to their daughter. It's their daughter. So, and you just never know. You could have had surgery because you were in a car accident that didn't kill you, wasn't going to even really terribly disable you, but they put you in a medically induced coma because you had a traumatic brain injury and they needed the swelling to go down, and Sophia didn't have a document where she could talk to the doctor. So, in the world of when I went to law school, I've been practicing for now, April 5th will be exactly 8.5 years. So it's close to 8.5 years. And I didn't know this stuff. It's not, and when people say I should have known, there's no reason for them to have known. There's no reason for them to have known. It's the fact that they think, I need to do something to protect my family, whether it's just a spouse or it's just children or parents or whatever. I need to do something. Watching Blue Jays or something. Anyway, and they don't, because they talk to their friends who say you don't need anything. They talk to their friends who tell them they need something that they don't need. And they don't find somebody to even have a 20-minute conversation with about, what do you think I need? People call saying they need trusts when they don't need trusts. People call saying they have living wills because they have them convinced with the last will and testament, which is after you die, and a living will is about end-of-life decisions. Again, all perfectly understandable and tragically sad, like this couple this week where he's now on life support, non-responsive, comatose. I mean, he may come out, miracles happen, but meanwhile, she's housebound and anyway. So people need plans, and leaving legacies is to segue into it, unless you want me to stay on this. Leaving legacies is something else that we can do with the idea of our planning, is leaving a legacy.
Yeah, I mean, why do people not think about, I don't even know of a better word than the mess they leave for the relatives if they don't do any planning?
They think it's going to be easy. I had 3 people last week tell me, I have a will, and in my will it says that my home at 123 Main Street goes to Joe and Susan. I said, that's really great, really great. However, without probate, the will does not go to Joe and Susan. Well, sure it does. Well, yeah, it does, but it does it after somebody's got to spend money getting the legal documents naming Joe and Susan as the owners. Well, why? Well, I don't know why, but so people think they have it done to find out they don't have it done. People don't do it. Well, younger people don't do it because they think they don't own anything yet. And they don't appreciate that if they have $500 in a checking account or even less, they can say, well, give my mother the money. Well, mom can't get the money unless the court says mom can get the money. And it's going to cost her more than $500 to get the money. So the money effectively gets lost. They don't think they have anything. they think it's too expensive and they've never checked it out. Right now, I saw somebody last week who referred me to a friend of hers who has prepaid legal, which is a good service. It's a great service. I've been a member for 25 years. And they do basic wills, and they do powers of attorney, and they do healthcare surrogates, and they do those all for the cost of membership. They do nothing custom, which is, a lot of people don't need anything custom, but they do them. And the woman I just mentioned introduced me to a friend of hers who found out she had pancreatic cancer, had done nothing, and needed some custom work. And she didn't really have time to mess with trying to do it through prepaid legal. So people do it themselves, thinking it's simple and straightforward, and it's not. When people say, I did it on LegalZoom or whatever, I said, so here's what I've learned. I said, those are not done by attorneys. The documents aren't done by attorneys, so you can't be sure they're compliant, which is the legal term. You can't be sure they're in line with or congruent with state law, any state law. And then if you needed something extra, let's just say, and I don't know this, like a LegalZoom power of attorney allows somebody to gift money to people, because there's a certain amount of money by law that you can give to anybody every year. But most people don't want their families able to gift. Or it doesn't have a provision that allows people to do Medicaid planning. And Medicaid planning comes up in all sorts of situations way beyond age. It comes up with disabled children. I know several families who have young adults who receive Medicaid because of their medical conditions and their psychological conditions. Well, if your power of attorney doesn't allow for that, then you've pretty much got a document that's not going to work for you when you need it. And you won't know that because an attorney didn't put it together. And an attorney didn't ask you the right questions. Like, do you want people to be able to give away your money? Some people say yes. Most people say no, for lots of reasons. So and people literally are superstitious that as soon as they do it, they'll die.
Oh,
and I've met two of those, and I've heard about probably 4 more. And I think, okay, and they're going to die. I mean, and nobody's promised them tomorrow. But the biggest reason people do it is they do have young children and they realize they have to provide something for their children if something happens to them. And they do it because they've just gone through a terrible experience with somebody they love that could have been avoided. Somebody had persuaded them, like you intervene and you intercede and you interfere, get into people's lives. And I mean, you can't force anybody, and you might be able to shake them up to say, okay, if your mom and dad don't put mom's name on this house, she's going to have to get your permission to own the house. Now, there are times that is important, because one couple I had, he had bought the house 4 months before they got married. He had 3 children from a prior relationship. She had 1 from a prior relationship. He never put her on the deed. And when he died, in order for her to own that house, she had to buy his 3 children out of their share of the house. Now, they didn't ask. I mean, they were entitled to 50% of the house. They didn't ask for what amounted to 50% of the house in that case, but legally they were entitled. And so I think she offered to pay them a certain amount, but had she been on the deed, that would have been absolutely irrelevant. She would have owned the house. So it cost her low 5 figures spread across 3 children that could have been avoided had he just been willing. He was unwilling. He was unwilling to put her on the house. possibly because he thought she'd own it outright when he died. It's wrong. And so probate was necessary when it could have been avoided completely. It was horrible.
Debbie, tell everybody, we just had someone write a question. What areas, there's a lot of different areas of estate planning. What areas do you cover?
Well, I do basics, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, that kind of stuff, which is pretty much all of estate planning. I don't do complex planning. I'm not working with high net worth people. Defined as probably people with net worth like over $3 million, because oftentimes they need life insurance trusts. I work with somebody who does that. They need, I do special needs trusts, which are part of my trust. So if somebody has a special needs child, I have a new client now who's got a special needs adult child. He's 40 years old, but he's on Medicaid. He can't work. So he needs something in place because he can't inherit money. I do those. But very complex planning, multiple business entities that have to be handled, the creation of business entities. Do you do partnerships, LLCs, whatever? My colleague and mentor does those. So I have somebody who does those. I don't do those. And I do probate.
What about elder law?
I'm doing some elder law, and elder law I've learned is, oh my gosh, hugely important. Because right now I've got somebody who's got not a lot of assets, but a few $100,000, and she's probably unfortunately going to wind up having to spend it all in a nursing home, long-term care facility before Medicaid will kick in. And she could have, with proper planning and forethought, she could have avoided some of that and sheltered some of that money very legally, very responsibly, helping somebody take care of her. And she wasn't ready. And I've referred recently to families to somebody who does long-term care assessment, so that this woman said, as soon as you think that you've got a situation where government benefits might be important, you want to call somebody to come and assess that person. So you've established a baseline for their competency and set up resources. And again, it's not necessarily age dependent. And I thought that's really smart, because somebody called me 2 weeks ago whose mother's been having horrible health situations. And I had some general counsel for her. And I referred her to this woman. And this woman said, well, your mom's been out of the hospital for 3 weeks. It's too late to get her back into nursing care, except at her own expense. You know, if we'd known about this while she was in the hospital, we might have been able to put her into a long-term care or a skilled nursing facility. So I'm doing elder law because I've come to see how essential it is, how honorably it can be done, and how, again, people don't know that they don't know. Years ago, when I thought my older brother had dementia, I went to hear a woman speak who's an expert in it in terms of helping caregivers. And she said what happens is people generally wait 90 days too long before they do something, because they think they imagine it. I mean, they're thinking they're imagining it, whatever. And by that time, they're in a personal potential health crisis for the stress of caregiving before they reach out. So having heard this woman speak here in Tampa, if I have somebody call it with even an inkling they might need that consult, I'm referring them directly to her.
Debbie, I know you got to get. I know you have to get out of here. Tell people how they can reach you and set up an appointment with you.
Okay. Well, I can be found at the stuff that's. If you're listening, 813-586-1332 is my phone number. I will talk to anybody who calls. I don't care if you're in Florida. I can't advise you legally per se, but I can give general guidance for questions to ask somebody. So 813-586-1332. My website is London, like the city, londonbakerlaw.com. And my email is Deb Baker, 2 B's, at londonbakerlaw.com. And I'm driven to help. So, if you have a question, I don't care if you live, in Alaska, whatever. I'm thinking of the furthest state away from me.
It really means that.
I mean, just remember the time zones. I think we're 6 hours apart, but
yeah.
I'm honored to answer a question. And if there's anything I can afford you that will ease whatever struggle you're in right now, it's what has me practicing law. So it'd be a pleasure.
And she's the sweetest person you ever want to meet. Debbie, thank you so much. Debbie will be back with us again next month. She's always with us the last Monday of the month at 9 a.m. We'll see you again next month, Debbie.
Thanks, kiddo. Legacy next time. Okay,
Legacy.
See ya. Legacy.
That's attorney Debbie Baker. She is amazing. If you have any type of estate planning problems, things you want to take care of now and not wait till it's too late, give Debbie a call. That's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next Monday with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.